there's a knock on the door, and they open the door, they say, Cooney, you're next. And your life kind of passes before you. And then the walk down the hallway, you start to hear the roar of the crowd. And I'm getting chills as I'm telling you, because you become magical when that happens.
This is gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast. When the lights go up and the cameras turn on, you must be exactly what they want you to be and fulfill the common definition of success. That shiny veneer which gives off the polished appearance. The facade is often paper thin as we come to terms that you may not be what the world sees. You may be tough as nails and hard as stone, but the pressure to uphold an image will eventually overwhelm even the most stoic. When the cracks appear, the tiniest difficulties will exploit every weakness. When the mask comes off and we break, that's when the true self emerges. This is the sustainable personality that comes forward. Getting knocked down is part of life. It's how often we get up that leaves our legacy. I'm Kevin Donaldson here with Mike Failace, and on this episode of the Suffering Podcast, we sit down with a boxing legend. We're in studio with Gerry Cooney himself to discuss
A legend.
to discuss the suffering of a professional boxer. We want to throw a big shout out to Toyota Hackensack. They take care of us. Please, if you're looking for a car, let them find you a car. Go to toyotahackensack.com and they can help you out with that. Now, Mr. Cooney.
I mean, where do we even start?
I got to tell you, because you're so tall, I got to call you Mr. Cooney. Because I'm afraid if I call you Gerry, you'll knock me out.
No, I wouldn't do that.
And of course,
That's why they call him Gentleman Gerry Cooney, because he's a gentleman.
Sitting in with us is our very own Charlie Cifarelli, who Charlie's a huge boxing fan. He's also
Charlie, I could have been a contender.
Before we get into anything, Gerry, we like to take a question from our audience every week to see how our guests will answer it. Try to give them a little tool on how to overcome certain things in life. And this week's question comes from Justice. It's how do you stay focused when old habits creep in?
You got to stay in my lane. You got to keep, paying attention to what you were taught. And if you don't, you got to ask for help. I mean, that was a great question. I heard someone say one time, can you help me? And I've been asking that question for a lot of years.
Well, when you were younger, did you ever ask that question? Hey, can somebody just help me?
No, because I was taught not to talk about it, not to communicate, keep it quiet, and don't say nothing to anybody. That's the problem.
Yeah, and
you grew up in that feeling. You sit in the back of the room. You don't raise your hand. Out of sight, out of mind. That's how it was in my house.
You crawl into that little hole, and and we said it just last week. You get comfortable in that hole. And sometimes you don't want to ask for the help.
Well, you kind of have to make. And I have a friend of mine who was a prisoner of war. He escaped, and they kept him in a hole for a couple of years. And I said, John, how did you take it? And you know what he told me? He said, I learned to like the pain.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to do. If you're in that state, in that place, that's all you can do. You learn to like the pain.
It's amazing what you can get used to, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to get out of it. You become so comfortable in it that when it's easy to get out, you still find yourself going back for a while.
Well, what do we call it? Resisting success. When you're that deep down and you're that hurt, sometimes that becomes comfortable to you, and you really. It's not like you don't want help. You're comfortable where you're at.
Well, that's all you know.
Yep.
And that's, you learn to make peace with it some way and not feel and stay down, that's the story about it. And that's the way you survive until you find a way out.
Charlie, what do you think? You've been sober for so long. What do you think? When those old habits creep in, how do you stay focused?
I stay focused because I got a support group that are people that are sober, and I got a morning meditation, and comparison is the thief of joy. I really don't look outside to try to change how I feel inside.
Mike?
Gerry, you said something before, like, can you help me? You really need to help yourself.
Well, here's the story, right? You constantly think so little of yourself that when you finally do come to learn to love yourself, the lights come on.
Yeah.
And you see your way out. But, until that happens, we keep falling back into the old guy. We feel safe there. We feel comfortable. We learn to be comfortable.
Yeah.
But it's not comfort. And you kind of see people changing, and you want to feel that. And it's been a great experience. 34 and a half years clean for me. My life has really turned around where I can be intimate with my wife. I love my children. I can't wait to see my wife. I can't wait to go to bed with my wife. This is the things that were giving me the gifts of life that I was supposed to be given growing up. Unfortunately, my father never knew about them. He learned how to survive, and he taught us how to survive. And unfortunately, there was a lot of neglect and abuse, and
But how to survive was more street survival.
well, yeah, I mean, you have to hide, sneak, learn how to lie to my father. You couldn't tell him, you had to survive.
You find out real quick who Gerry really is.
Well, no, it's a process. I mean, I listen, I was 15 and a half. I went to the gym. My brother was boxing, and I thought I was good. I was hitting a heavy bag in my house. I said, let me box. Can I box somebody? They put me in this little Italian guy, and he knocked me around the gym that day. And I threw the gloves off, and I went home. And I said, forget it, it's not for me. But I went down in the basement the next day, and I put the gloves on and hit the bag, expecting the guy was going to come on me. And 2 or 3 days later, I went back to the gym, and I asked if I could box that kid again at 15 and a half. And he couldn't do that to me. Once I understood, I learned about breathing, I learned how to move it. And then 6 months later, I went and won the middleweight championship in the Garden in front of 21,000 people. It was.
But isn't that a great metaphor for life? What you just said right there. You got knocked down. You picked yourself back up. You got back in the ring, and you kept going.
Well,
you
yeah,
kept moving
that's,
forward.
That's a struggle. That's life, that we have to get up and move forward. People get stuck. People stay down. People don't turn the page. At some time in our lives, we have to understand, okay, this is not for me anymore. I got to turn the page and get on with my life, get a new set of rules. And fortunately for me, I helped a lot of people. And in that process, I was able to help myself.
Well, one of the greatest quotes I ever heard, and I'm sure everybody heard it, it's not how many times you got knocked down, it's how many times you got back up.
By your friend,
I don't
by your
look at that,
by your friend Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah. Well,
Sports
I don't
Illustrated
look at
cover.
that. Life is a struggle. Life is a fight.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't know if there's any blessed kids that didn't have any trouble in their life. Obviously I learned that you're no good. You're a failure. You're not going to amount to anything. Don't trust nobody. Don't tell nobody your business. Meanwhile, my father was telling me that so nobody would know what was going on in the house.
Yeah.
But see, I use that as my strength. To answer this social media question, I use that as my strength because I was told very similar things to you growing up. You're not going to be any good. As a matter of fact, my father used to call me the laziest white man alive. That's exactly what my father used to say to me. And now I use that as my strength. I use that as my reason to stay on the straight and narrow. I'm going to show you, you son of a bitch, I'm going to show you, and I'm going to be good for goodness sake.
I forgave my father. That was my story.
Yeah, you forgave
And
him?
the only way I could get away from that was to forgive my father.
Kevin used to be called the Great White Dope.
I haven't gotten there yet. I haven't gotten to your
great
point.
place. Get there because you're just wasting our
I've tried.
time.
I've really tried, but there's a lot of backstory to it. But Justice, thank you so much for sending that in. It's a really tough, thought-provoking question, and I think it's going to help a lot of
And
people.
Kevin, I don't think we have to ask the toughest question.
You know what I want to ask? Because the last time I saw you, you punched me square in the
Right
ribs.
in the ribs.
I didn't punch you anywhere, bro. I may have tapped you or something. Maybe I touched you.
It was a love tap.
A tap from a world-class heavyweight who George Foreman once said that you were one of the hardest punchers he's ever faced. Yeah. So a tap from you, it's not like it's a tap from a normal person.
My wife is out walking the dog one night, and there's this gym teacher, he's a big tough guy. He wanted to box me, so I said, come on, let's go to the gym. Now I never, obviously as a professional fighter, when I see you move once, I know I can set you up for that place. When I see you move another place, I know where your weaknesses are, right? So I'm playing with the guy, and they always want to hurt you, right?
Right.
And so I have so many stories like that. And so my wife is walking down the street with the dog, and this guy said, oh, how you doing? I boxed with your husband, Gerry. He broke 2 of my ribs. Don't say nothing. My wife said, it's just so many stories. I had a guy come into the gym saying that he's been a carpenter for 10 years. He's not making it. He came in, wants to fight me, and I told him, don't do it, don't do it. I was about 22, and my trainer came in and got mad and put him in the ring with me. And, as being a professional athlete, when you're fighting somebody and you can see that look in their eye like they're trying to hurt you, So I bang him in the ribs a little bit and stop him, drop him to the ground. I did it twice, and then the third time I hit him on the chin, dropped him to the ground. He got up, said, okay, I guess I'll be a carpenter. There's a lot of those stories that people think that you can get into the ring, into my world. I mean, there's been plenty of football players that wanted me to go and box them, and they're going to be right here with me. And I said, listen, do you think that I can get on the football field with you?
Right.
And no, I can't.
Well, we had Butchie Sanchez in here, which I know you know him. And Butchie had said he used to love it when the guys came in the gym from prison, the big tough guys, and wanted to fight and wanted to box. And everybody was sort of foaming at the mouth wanting to get in the ring with these guys because these guys wanted to show that they are tough.
What is the difference between fighting and boxing?
Well, it's pugilism.
Well, let me tell you guys a story.
Pugilism.
So I used to work for Union County. They used to have like 60 or 80 rookie cops. And they used to take them to the Union County someplace, and they would train them all these different areas. And I would do self-defense. And I'd get there and I'd teach them how to protect themselves. If there's no stick, if there's no gun, how to protect yourself. And so there'd be 80 guys in a circle, and there'll always be 4 or 5 guys that want to try you out. And so I used to get a kick out of that because everybody would be around the circle watching them, and I would box them. And, they couldn't get to me. And I'd slap them around. They'd be a little bit embarrassed. It was so much fun.
Would you ever have an instance where, okay, you're moving on in your career, and I know we're sort of getting off track, but you're moving on in your career where somebody tries you. You're Gerry Cooney. You fought for the heavyweight championship of the world, and somebody just for a little bit of street credibility. We just saw this with Mike Tyson on an airplane.
Sure.
Yeah.
On an airplane. And Mike lost his cool.
Right.
He lost his cool, and to his detriment, because that was on camera. Did you ever come across that?
I've always had people with me. You got to be smart, right, about it.
Because you could kill somebody.
Well, yeah, I mean, I usually tell them, what is it you really want out of this? You want to fight me? Mm-hmm. And they never do. It's just a crowd of people. They think they're tough guys. But when you look them in the eye and say, what is it you really want from this? They never want to fight.
You have an amazing calmness to you being in the ring and in what some people call one of the most violent sports. But I have boxed, and it's not a violent sport at all. It's a sport of science and reaction. That's not something that's learned, because I've watched a lot of your fights as an amateur, especially when you did the New York Golden Gloves, and then when you went to one of your first pro fights against Dino Dennis, who talked a lot of trash to you. I watched the difference in the way that you moved. Is that something that is taught, or is it something that a boxer naturally has?
Well, I remember he put his hand on me at the weigh-in, and it really made me angry, right? So I come back after the first round. My trainer says, you could have knocked him out. Why didn't you do it? I said to myself, it was the first time I ever said this. I have plenty of time. I was so angry with him.
You just wanted to punish
I
him.
beat him up a little bit, you know what I mean? And that's part of the game. And, they'll often talk about, there's a knock on the door, and they open the door, they say, Cooney, you're next. And your life kind of passes before you. And then the walk down the hallway, you start to hear the roar of the crowd. And I'm getting chills as I'm telling you, because you become magical when that happens. When you're in shape and you're taking care of yourself, it's just magic when you get in. You don't care about them introducing anybody, singing any songs. Just ring the bell. I want to get going. I have a plan. I'm listening to my corner. I'm going to take this guy apart. That's the game.
That's one of the questions I was going to ask. And in modern day boxing, it's all about like showism now. These guys come in with these whole entourages, and to me, that's just get in the ring and fight.
You know what? I have fun with it because they're all crazy guys. They're just human beings, and it's their moments, right?
But I love when these guys come in with all this pomp and circumstance, go out and get their ass beat in the first round,
sometimes it happens,
shit knocked out of them.
Hey, listen, that's life, right? We all do.
Yeah.
We all get knocked down, right? We have to get up, dust off our pants, and move on, and without sitting still for too long, because life's not waiting for us.
Yeah. Father
Life
time
is
never
going.
stops.
Right.
So when you were working with Victor Valley, and did he sort of mentor you? I've heard things. He was a second father to you. Did he sort of mentor you into the big arenas that you were about to go into, and preparing you? Because I imagine that can really get your nerves, and it screws up your game a little bit.
No. So he was a great guy. I love the guy, great guy, and he really gave me a lot of stuff. And in the moments, I couldn't really understand it all. when I finished boxing, looking back, is when I really learned how to fight. I mean, I was an angry guy. Anger took me to finding those openings. But when I finished the game and I was out of the game for a while, and life slowed down for me again, I was able to really ingest what he told me all those years, and be able to pick it up and make the guy miss and find the opening, and and that's the gift of it. But when I was a kid, and probably because of my upbringing and my background, I couldn't really see as easy as I see guys I train now who can pick up quickly and they keep it. Like having my daughter and my son, they both can fight. They're both punchers, and they don't forget. Back then for me, it was like, life was spinning, and I was trying to hold on. And that's where booze kind of calmed me down a little bit. Like I believe the night, May 11th, 1981, when I fought Ken Norton, I believe that night I could have beat Holmes. I was in such great shape. I was a beast. And
Yeah, you took over that fight.
well,
Yeah,
I want to just
I would
tell
have
you a
doubt.
quick story in that fight. So I'm fighting Norton, and I'm 23. My son is 24. I can't believe it. I was a year younger than him fighting Kenny Norton, who just lost to Holmes 3 years before. And so when it came out, I always like to let the guys feel my power. I want them to feel what I got. So maybe it's going to make them a little leery coming in, right? So I catch him with the right hand to the body, and he buckled a little bit, and I thought to myself, wow, that shit felt good.
I got him.
That
I
felt
got
good.
him.
Let me take a shot here for 30 seconds. Somehow I got him. I spun him into the corner, and when I caught up with his bobbing and weaving, I hit him with an uppercut, and you could see him go limp. But the referee, he didn't stop the fight, and you're trained to keep going until it's over, right? So,
Right, if I recall that, he's down and you're still going to town on him.
I can't remember.
I
How do you remember?
because I watched it.
I'm just kidding.
'Cause I was.
I remember.
YouTube is a
he
great
was
thing
stuck
these
on the
days.
rope, and he couldn't fall.
Yeah.
But the referee wasn't seeing that. But I have to keep continuing to fight and it felt pretty good, right? So I knocked him out in 54 seconds in the first round. You think I was in greatest shape of my life. You think I would say, well, I got to get a good trainer. I got to get a nutritionist and a condition coach, because I'm going to fight Larry Holmes for the heavyweight championship of the world, right? Thing I've been wanting to do my whole life. But because of my upbringing and the fear that was involved in that, you're just not good enough, you can't make it, we self-sabotage ourselves.
Yeah.
And I started to party that night. And 13 months later, I fight Holmes, and I get stopped in the 13th round. But, see, it wasn't me, because I was drinking. I wasn't taking care of myself. So I was going to prove my father wrong anyway. That it wasn't really me. It was that I was drinking and didn't take care of myself. Dumb.
Do you think if you had a trainer, and this is kind of a hindsight's 20/20 type of thing, because I know your management team was looking at Customato as a potential trainer. Do you think if somebody like him who really, because what he did to Tyson is he sort of adopted him, do you think that would have made a difference?
No. They set up a meeting with me with Customato, and I was like a half hour, 40 minutes late. And he was so mad at me, but the train was delayed. And once I heard that, I don't want to do it. And I trained up there at his camp. I saw him up there. He's a little bit of a wild, crazy guy. But Victor Valley was my guy. And the only thing is they were dealing with a lot of dysfunction from my upbringing, and a lot of self-sabotage that was in there underneath where I couldn't even see it.
That's the main thing, is a self-sabotage, because it's like I said, going back to the resisting success thing, you want to get there, but you're comfortable sabotaging yourself.
Well, not that I'm comfortable. It was like fear of feeling broken. So you kind of take the rein. Like I work with these young kids, and I get them going. I teach them boxing, and I teach them about life, and I talk about their pain, and I get them up and shined up, and they look pretty. They're just about to shine, and they take a big rock and they throw it right into the motor, and they throw it away. And unfortunately, that's how life is, right? That's what we do.
I spent a long time self-sabotaging, so
Okay.
I get it.
So, yeah, that's what I identify with. And I wish I had somebody who could have said, come on, Cooney. Or better than that, I hope I get the opportunity to grab some kid and say, hey, kid, come on, stick with me now. This is important. This is really important. Let's pay attention.
That Mickey
I'd
figure.
have somebody like that.
That Mickey figure in
The guys
Rocky.
I had wanted to make money, not my trainer, but these other people, and that was the most important thing. It wasn't me.
Right. Well,
You
they
know?
pulled some tricks and stuff like this. I had heard a story that they offered Muhammad Ali $250,000 a year for the rest of his life to fight you.
No. We were supposed to. Let me tell you about me and Ali. So Ali and he was thinking about fighting me back in those days. It was I really didn't know anything about it at that time, but so he fights Leon Spinks, and what happened was he lost to Leon Spinks. So that messed up the whole fight card to me, because now he had to go back and have a rematch with Ali again, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I got kicked out of that picture. But anyway, to say, I got Larry Holmes. Listen, I have a great radio program, Sirius XM, channel 156, Mondays and Fridays. And we broke down the heavyweight division from Jack Johnson up and through Muhammad Ali, Lennox Lewis, Larry Holmes. And Larry Holmes, next to Ali, he was number 2. He and Lennox Lewis. That's how great a fighter he was. That's the kind of guy I fought with no experience.
You see Larry Holmes now. Larry,
We're great friends.
Yeah, I see you with him all the time. But
Great
you see
friends.
Larry Holmes now. I remember Larry Holmes in his prime, and he was a beast.
He was a beast. So was Lennox Lewis, though. Lennox Lewis was a monster.
Yeah.
You had all these guys, and people forget how good Larry Holmes was, because he wasn't champion
He
for.
was not good. He was great. I traveled in Europe with him for 2 or 3 weeks, and so every stop, every dinner club we did, we saw highlights of his films, highlights of my films, and what a magical guy!
Yeah.
How patient he was. He waited. He got dropped. He got up, found a way.
And I love the story behind that particular your fight in June of 1982 with him. I love the stories behind how you were the great white